Bad news, like the only news that ever comes for the environment, we have bad news for the environment, and that is that after initially dropping, thanks to the pandemic, keeping people at home and not driving and factories being operated less, emissions had dropped, they are now coming back. Although still a little bit lower than they were immediately before the pandemic. That is the only good news, basically. But new research shows that US emissions rose by 6.2% last year compared to 2020. Emissions were still 5% down from 2019 levels, but the economy is coming back and we're producing more stuff and we're certainly driving more. And so it is entirely possible that through this year, we will exceed even those numbers. Here's a breakdown, or actually before we jump into that, they largely credit, and this is a write-up in The Guardian, the leap in emissions to an increase in cars and trucks on the road. Transportation emissions were actually up 10%, which is just a crazy amount. And you can see here that breakdown with transportation edging up, but industry and electricity were up too. And you can see that buildings is sort of vacillating. It is trending up slowly over time. More bad news, coal also made an unwelcome return with its use in power generation, posting a 17% increase from 2020 to 2021. That is a huge increase in just 1 year. Emissions from industrial processes rose by 6.6% last year, while emissions from the use of buildings edged up slightly too. And that's not surprising. Many buildings that were used for workplaces were not being used nearly as much early on. High natural gas prices are apparently what led to that rise in coal, by the way. So that is certainly not helping either. And overall, what does this mean in terms of our ability as a country to be a part of the international effort to do something about climate change? Well, the US is now further off the target set by the Biden administration under the Paris Climate Agreement, which he rejoined, to slash emissions 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030. Our greenhouse gas emissions were 17.4% below 2005 levels in 2021, up from 22.2% below 2005 levels in 2020. So there's multiple issues with that. One, that it's seeming less likely for us to actually achieve that. Two, that intersects with the fact that we have this conversation in the Democratic Party about the possibility of an infrastructure bill that's really focused on doing something about the climate, but that has not gone anywhere, and the chances that it will in the short term seem incredibly low. You combine that with the Biden administration's willingness to approve of oil drilling in a number of different areas, which we've talked about recently. All of that is bad, but then even worse is that the Paris Climate Agreement that we accepted, the standards that we signed up for, are not largely considered by most environmental activists to even really be up to the task of stopping the worst effects of climate change, and we're probably not even going to reach that. And so, we, I guess, had expectations, not necessarily grounded in a lot of faith in the Biden administration, but they are really coming up short. And in some areas where, look, there are certainly executive orders, executive actions that they have been done that have been good in terms of keeping some oil in the ground, stopping development of some parts of the United States, the reestablishment of the methane emissions, doing some stuff with CAF standards. That is all good, but we are still falling behind. And a really, really bad future is staring us in the face, and we don't seem to be doing nearly enough as a country to do anything about it. It's possible that Biden could turn it around in the later years of his presidency, but so far the evidence has not been great.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.